Hello again from my side. I will try to say something about the brave new BIM. And I will start with some historic aspects and come to some ambiguitäten. So I think in German it's easier. And the last point, maybe it's more mainly questions. And I think those questions will go to Dielsa and you can dive in and tell something about an alternative about BIM. Okay, so what is BIM? And I think I don't want to give an explanation or definition or something. If you want to see something, you can get to the internet and you will find enough of information there. But I try to start with some of the background. So I think the initial goal was like to have an neutral product model supporting the building life cycle. So, I mean, of course, you can also think about in the 70s, in the older ages, it depends where you think you start a BIM, but I would say I start with IFC, so that's my starting point. Maybe you have a point to start earlier, but I will start from here. So 1994, there was an Industry Alliance for Interoperability founded to somehow try to solve these issues. And they later changed to the International Alliance. And with that, 1996, they had the first version of IFC. And with that product model, the idea was to somehow, they try to overcome these issues. And there was another change of the group name that was then called Building Smart, and I think they wanted to be a bit more, not so nerdy, and I think that was a name change, and also the processes were more on the focus from that time on, and they have different kind of chapters. Where they define the standard all over the world and try to find a commitment about the standard. Here are some examples of the standard. I think the most of them are right known. So IFC, of course, it's the main part of it, and but there are also other things like IDM and MVD. That's more about the use case. IDS is I think still in progress somehow. I don't know, maybe Dielsa can say something about it. But, and there are also collaboration formats and something for the process, guidelines. Of course, you have a lot of guidelines you can read. And for example, the AIA, the Auftraggeberinformationsanforderung, that's more for the business case definition. And the BAP, like the BIM execution plan is the idea to give some help to define the process. Okay, but now I start with the influence, and most times it's about software. So I have heard it a lot of time that people saying, okay, the software industry defines the format, and I would say there was also a lot of a big impact or influence from the universities. So I think Weimar, the Bauhaus University was one university. I think you were also from there. So I think it fits somehow. And I think there the first step was made to make this transfer from this step, so the standard of the exchange of product model data, which was already a standard, which was transferred to the IFC to have something similar, but more addressed to the needs of the building industry. So, and they got also a separate ISO norm and so on. And we had also the TU Dresden, and that time they were looking for the structure analysis domain and preparing the stuff for the engineers. And there was also a small group for the timber construction domain. And because also there was a format, I don't know if somebody knows about the DTH, that was a Datentransfer in Holzbau. It was a step-based protocol, very small one, and I think not too many functions in it, but at least the idea was to bring that information to IFC with this harmonization project. And here you have a more detailed view on this. So there was also a plan in between to have a different or have a single timber construction domain. So nowadays it's, yeah, that was skipped somehow, but now it's all mixed in the whole IFC model somewhere. And but just to see that we have only some small entities, it's it was like about 6 entities that were planned from that project to chip to the IFC model. And we can imagine, if we know about the buildings from today and also BIMwood pavilion, that this kind of information is maybe a little bit too small to fulfill all the needs what we have. And yeah, of course we also have other problems, but yeah. Okay, that was like the version 2, and I think these are the versions from today. I think this year there were some more information about infrastructural issues were implemented in this IFC 4 versions, and I think only the tunnels were skipped. But yeah, that's it for the IFC, and it's still growing. And yeah, yet now I have a little point on some standards, but that's then it. So the IDM, it's the idea to define some general information which you can implement later in the software. And the model view is like a subset of the IFC model, so you can better see which information is needed for a specific application. And yeah, the IDS is, I would say, the small brother of the MVD. It's more, I think, less centralized. I think the MVD is also like the whole IFC model. You have the problem that everybody needs to agree to some standard, and then it can be implemented. And the IDS, I think the idea is more to be a little bit more flexible, but I think today it's not so common. And we have a lot of standards like DIN, ISO, and VDE, and so on. So it's great. We need more BIM, or is it really like this? Yeah, now we come to some problems. I think also the others will talk about some issues, but I will talk about the triple D challenge. So on the one hand, we have the domains, so that different people understand different things under the same subject. So yeah, for example, we don't have the social science here, but when we think about a platform, maybe social science would think about the capitalism, and we think about the knowledge transfer, and maybe a geek would think about uploading and downloading data. So everybody thinks about something else. So that's really domain dependent. Then we have the details. So especially if we look on the fabrication process, then we need, as a detail, we need much other information than in the yeah, general process. And we also have the dialects. So that's similar like when human beings are talking with each other. So for example, somebody from Berlin and from Bavaria, if they talk, then it could be difficult to understand each other because everybody is speaking a little bit different, same language, but still some differences. And this is similar on the machine side, that also there could be some misunderstanding. Okay, and then there's also the perspective if we, because IFC is a very standardized format, so if we look at it from the product and project perspective, it's like that if we try to standardize a product, it can help to innovate, because then not everybody needs to invent this thing all the time again. And you can spread information, so for this, it's good to have a product in the standard, but if it's more individual, then it can be hard to standardize things. And it can also be that the standard will block you and make you slow down the innovation, because it takes time to define the standard, and it will be the other way around. So it can be the opposite of the actual idea. And also brought some information from Fabian Scheurer, so thanks to Fabian here, if he will see us afterwards. So, and from the BIMwood project, there were some outcomes. They were focusing mainly about the processes, and they just put some general rules about what doesn't work, what works. And that's, for example, they said we need a pull planning, so that the receiver defines what is needed, and all the others just deliver in time. So that's one of their topic, they say. And they say we need a lean model, so it must be small. So it's more about the quality than the quantity. And it's the model quality is like you don't need all the redundance, and it's very important to reduce all the information, that you only have the smallest information as possible, and then give it away. And there's also the level of detail and accuracy. So when you like the deeds, I think I go to the next slide here. So the level of detail is like when you have the drawings and the fabrication, then all the information needs to be at the early stage in the model, or you need it. You don't need any information, because then you can add this information. But if you have this information, it must be very precise and correct. And of course, that's also the question if it's you have a model from the design stage, if you have this precise information already. And then you have the level of accuracy. We know it also from the BIMwood pavilion. I think we had 0.3 millimeters accuracy. So also this tolerance is very important to have this in the model. And the conclusion of BIMwood, or from design to production, is that at the moment the workflow that are provided that cannot be handed over to the production side. So it's the only exception or the proof of concept is if you have non-regular projects. So if it's already complex, like the Swatch project, then it's somehow working. But for the normal case, it just doesn't work to start with the design and go with this model to the production. Okay, and now this is a try to look from different perspectives to from one side, from co-design to BIM, and this is what we do now here. So I don't know, I guess this matrix with closed, open, and little BIM. So the little and closed is like closed. You have a closed format, like a proprietary format, and you have this little is the domain. If you have only the engineers or the architects which work not with others together, then it can be called somehow little. And of course, the path of the Holy Grail, I would say, this line here is like to become open and become big. And I would say the cluster is somehow here, but now it seems like from this perspective, it looks not like on the top, but if we have in mind that it's important that we have the building in the end and have all the information there, then it mustn't be the worst case to be not on this big open standard. So it's, when you look from this perspective, it's like, I would place us, or I would place the co-design here in the big closed area. And we can try it also the other way around. So if we look at BIM with a method of co-design. So maybe you can also, if you like, say if this is maybe not the right case, but it's just a try. So yeah, when we see BIM coming like coming from an abstract data model, and that the focus is to be very standardized, then it's we also have we have a need for dynamic and specific aspects, and so we somehow try to find a way in between. So if we look here on this diagram and we look above on the abstraction, of course this is always needed if we have new ideas also for research, but it's also important to come down to become specific. And also we have some information like projects where we cannot define every information. Then we need to have this dynamic aspects to somehow, yeah, be not too much limited on the standardization somehow. So, and we can also, this is maybe in more in the direction of the ELSA, so we can also see it like centralized and distributed. So I think it's always the question, what kind of projects we have. We must look more in a more central or a more distributed way, or somewhere in between. And the same for the abstraction. We need to go up and down and not to get fixed to one place. And yeah, so the question is how we can improve the interoperability and the processes. And I hope I will get some more information about that from our next candidate, which is the ELSA.
Being a little bit from a different field of expertise, my question is, I really have been looking for a definition of BIM because I think there is none that is exact. Is that right? Or is there a definition that you really adhere to?
I think it's like it's pretty much bendable, so or extendable or whatever. So there are some definitions. I would start from the building smart side. I don't know, but the problem is it's already somehow abstract. So and it's already there. You can for everybody it's different, I would say. So there's a lot of definitions, and it's, I think, difficult to say which is the right one, because it always also means very different things. So that's why it's hard to have an exact definition, because it's pretty much domain dependent, and yeah. So that's why that's why I really didn't want to give an explicit definition, because yeah, it's too abstract from my point of view. But maybe somebody else has some. What would you say?
I have a slide for that.
Okay, so we will hear that later. Okay.